Hello, my name is Taylor Smith, and today I will be giving a presentation on football stadium expansion. This report is to propose a solution for the Charleston, Texas football stadium size. There have been debates about Charleston joining Division I sports, and quite frankly, our stadium would not be big enough to hold a crowd of that size. Even if Charleston does not join Division I, our school is becoming larger, and we need more seating in our stadium. There have been games held in the stadium that allowed for standing room only because there were so many fans. In this report, I will be going into detail my plan and how I came up with it, the costing, and construction plans. About a year ago, there were talks about going into Division I. The reason these talks came up were because there were two schools that left Division II from our conference and joined Division I in the FCS conference. This caused problems because we did not have enough football teams in our conference to make for appropriate scheduling. The solutions were to either go Division I also, or to get more people in our conference to make appropriate scheduling. There are currently 9 college teams in our conference, but only 7 of them are football teams. So it makes it a little bit harder for playing football games. When these talks came up about going to Division I, that one of the biggest issues was that we do not have large enough athletic facilities to hold a fan base or even a large enough facility to have the teams come. I have been to games in our stadium that were high school, and they did not have enough room to hold those fans, and that was just high school, so I can only imagine not being able to hold Division I fan base. Whenever I looked at this, I did some research on the different stadium sizes in Division I. Now, of course, when they came up, it was the big schools like Texas A&M or Michigan State, and big schools that had seating capacity of over 100,000 or about 80,000, which is a lot more than what we would have. If we were to be going into Division I, we would be joining the same conference that Abilene Christian would be in, which is the FCS conference. And the average seating capacity stadium there is 15,000. When I looked at Charleston seating capacity today, it's 7,000. So we would have to at least double our size in order to hold a fan base large enough to be in that division. Now, when looking at this, there were a couple of ideas that I came up with on expanding. We could either expand out or up. The problem with expanding out is that there isn't much land at Charleston. We know this as a problem with the parking. So my solution was to go up. It's better, and most stadiums do that nowadays instead of going out. When looking at it, you could go up and around the stadium. For instance, there isn't any seating down in the end zone, so we could close that in and make that more seating as well. I looked at this, and I looked at other stadiums such as Texas A&M, Kyle Field, and their stadium goes up instead of out. And actually, right now they are looking at expanding their stadium, and they are looking at closing in the corners. So that's where I got my ideas from. When looking at costing, the first step that we would need to do is talk to Dr. DeTavio. Now, of course, he knows the issues with our stadium because he was the one that was talking about going to Division I, and one of the things that he heard was that our athletic facilities are not large enough. I'm sure he would not have a problem with expanding, so this would be a way for us to get the word out of expanding. Next, we would have to get bids from companies. Now, I think that in order to get a good estimate on how much we would need to spend on expanding our stadium, we would have to get at least 3 bids from 3 different companies. Looking at this, we want to look at their costing based on labor, material, and time. We want the bang for our buck, obviously. We don't want somebody that's not going to do a very good job and cost us a lot of money. So when looking at the different companies, I researched companies that build football stadiums or recreational facilities. One of the companies that I found is Gildan. It has 4 different locations in Texas, 2 around San Antonio, and 2 around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So this would be a great company to come in and look at our stadium and give us an estimate on what we should do. Next is the funding. In the past, when we expanded on our football stadium and athletic facilities, we went to our community, Stephenville, and the alumni. Of course, Tarleton is based on tradition, and everybody wants to support their school, so of course the alumni had no problem wanting to donate money in the past. So this is where I would start. I would start going to the alumni or the community and asking for funding to expand our stadium, because not only would this benefit us, but Stephenville High School also uses our stadium, and they could have a larger stadium for their fans. Another thing to consider when looking at funding is fundraising. I mean, a lot of people want to give back to their school and their college and everything, so the students could go out and fundraise money in order to get enough for this expansion. In the construction plan, I looked at a basic construction plan on how to build anything. So really, when you're looking at it, they're all basically the same. There's just a little bit more added to it depending on what you're building. But one of the first steps is getting the company to come in, and they'll have setups. So they'll bring in their machines, their material, and anything that they'll need, their labor. And then they will come in and start breaking things down. They're going to start taking things apart that need to be taken apart and digging out land that needs to be dug out, and then pouring concrete. When they're pouring concrete, they're going to start adding the rebar, and they'll start building up. Next, once they begin building up, they'll start adding in the concrete and everything for the seating. And in looking at the construction plan, you have to put into thought that there are going to have to be entryways, sidewalks, doors, more restrooms, everything to accommodate a bigger crowd. So they'll have to start adding in all of that. And then once that's done, your last few steps are going to be adding in the electrical, the plumbing, the last few things to finish it off. And so that was my plan on expanding the football stadium, and I hope that you enjoyed it.